let's see where we are at this morning. Give me a check-in here on my channel, make sure that I am live and direct. Looks like I am on a... There we go, I just popped into existence. Hey, man. Cheers, everyone. Checking. There we go, I just popped into existence. Okay, cool, volume's good. So, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and I publish them online, and we're focusing our attention right now on an adventure in the Eberron campaign setting in 5th edition called Crystals of Mabar. This is an adventure for 4 to 5 characters, so levels 7 to 8. I've been running games in Dungeons and Dragons since 1987. I've been a fan of Eberron since 2006. I have been creating content on the DMsGuild since 2017, and this is the first adventure that I've published. So I like 5th edition a lot. I started with Redbox, and I've played through all the editions, and I like 5th the best. I like the imagination of 1st and 2nd edition the most. I like the mechanics of 5th edition the most. Yeah, I just like the D20 engine itself, not necessarily the difference between combat and ability checks and social interaction, like the 3 gears that you can shift between action, economy, and Dungeons and Dragons. I wish it was more fluid, but that's homebrew. So hey, I'm at Phil Kearney on the X Twitter platform. You can follow me there. I'm here on YouTube at Phil Kearney. Like, subscribe, bell icons, notifications. Thanks for subscribers, guys. Here's all 285 episodes here in a full career list. Let's see, my Twitter account, Patreon. You can get into my Discord through the About page of my Patreon. It has a permalink there. Spelljammer Combat Exploration, the Cartography System, Point Warlocks, Pacts and Patrons, Ravnica, Theurgy, Ability Check Casting. These are all different bundles and books that I've created on the DMsGuild already. This is the book cover that we created for the adventure that will also be on the DMsGuild. Since Eberron is a Wizards of the Coast IP, the place to publish it is on DMsGuild. So I'm happy to do so. I love DMsGuild. It's a cool place. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Back around episode 40 is when I made the book cover. There you go. So right now we're making forest tokens. We're going to drop back here into the black. And let's see. That's right. So these are just tree tokens. Here and here and here and here. When we finish this piece, we'll be able to use these trees to just populate, like we did with the manifest zone, and the different plant tokens that we're creating there. Similarly, we're creating forest tokens so that if you want to, because you could have like 5 or 6 encounters in the forest if you want to. But I don't need to make a separate map for each one of them. But if I provide some basic tools for you to make your own map, you can have as many forest adventures as you want. And I was working on the conclusion and the back end of the adventure. Hold on. Good, just bring that down. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So I was working on the back end of the adventure last night, and I got into the expanding the adventure. Like what do you do after this? And there's still things that keep cropping. Like I forgot to mention the Underdark. Like there's so much shit you can do from there. It's such a great jumping spot for whatever it is that you want to get into. But one of the things is undead and monsters and rival factions are in the Carnwood causing trouble. So being able to, if you want to extend the adventure, like if you want to take dominion over this region for one faction or another, then there's potential for a number of Carnwood encounters or adventures. And so providing token resources so you can easily replicate if you like the cut of my jib, if it were. If like you like the way I make forests, here's a bunch of tools that you can use to have forests look like the forests make. Words. But that's the point, is I'm building toolkits. The adventure's a toolkit, and I want the tokens and the maps to be a toolkit as well. And once I build those toolkits, it's like these are things that I can use myself in future maps. So I'm building a vocabulary of map language consistent to the stuff that I do, which I am really enjoying the production of. Because since I've never actually published adventures before, I've never really had to think about creating consistency in environments. Like my book covers and illustrations and stuff, I strive for difference so that each painting is unique and interesting to invest time in looking at. But for maps, I want the opposite. I want consistency. I want you to be able to look at a token or a hazard or an environmental piece, and for you to just intuitively understand what you can do with it, what it is for. To me, that is good cartography, and I've never really had to consider it because all the cartography I've ever done was just for myself. Now, obviously, I understand what I mean when I do the squiggly deal, but I've never needed to be visually consistent with it for a third audience, really. I mean, my team is there, sure, but I work in such small. I mean, like I work in stick figures. Like my dungeons are like boxes and lines. I am not a big tactical guy, which is ironic because of how tactical the martial power system is. But the point of the martial power system is if martial characters had the same breadth of options and utility that casters had, but from a different direction, what would that look like? And it just turns out it's super cool. It's crunchy. I mean, it's as crunchy as having everyone be a full caster, but it's fun. And because characters can do more, you end up spending the same amount of time in combat with less rounds, but they're doing more during their rounds. So it's I like it. You either lean in and have characters do a lot of stuff that interacts, or you lean out so that you're inside of just like simple action economy, like one action and movement per turn, and no particular action is particularly impactful. Like it's like the Beckme system. You have very little spell power per day. For the most part, the actions that you're taking are just 5, 10, 20 hit point chunks of damage, and but things only have like 60 points, so they go down pretty quickly between a party of 4 people. You can drop stuff in a realistic 3 rounds, but those 3 rounds go fast because you don't have a lot to do each round. So if I'm supposed to have 2 combat per short rest, and each combat is supposed to be 2 to 4 rounds. That means on average I'm going to have 2 combat with 3 rounds of combat each, 6 rounds of combat. So it should be basically 6 rounds of combat for short rest. If I add in more puzzles, I can drop that to 4 rounds of combat, where puzzles and traps themselves are basically rounds of combat. Because otherwise you're kind of dropping out of 6-second round action economy as you're traversing space. You're only there when action economy matters. So they've got all these things they can do. If I reduced combat to 1 round each. I'm having thoughts. I'm having thoughts about using the action economy that characters have, but really, literally reducing combat down to 1 round. With creatures that can't last any longer than a response, which is the idea of minions from 4th edition. I am aware of this. 5th edition was very much built around let's mow through opponents and have a lot of cool powers to do it. And something I did in the last playtest, which is something that I've been doing more and more often, is rolling initiative at the end of combat, and then having that initiative count hold throughout the adventure, so that there is a hierarchy of action, of engagement. Like go down the initiative line. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then once everyone declares what they're doing, resolve it. Like in combat, you're supposed to like, what are you doing, and then you resolve it action by action, which is fine. But when you're out of combat and you're in the ability check, what's the word to use? When you're in the gear of ability checks, thank you, because ability checks exist inside of combat, but combat does not exist inside of ability checks. Ability check is a resolution mechanic to determine success or failure in a task that you're performing. Combat action economy is a state of the game, or a mode of play, a gear that you shift into to gain more action economy in less time. It's like time is slowing down, and boy, isn't that just a suitable analogy for one of the largest complaints about 5e combat, or just D20 combat in general, that Wizards of the Coast has produced, is it's fucking slow because of the amount of action economy that characters have, and I don't think it would be so bad. I'm having thoughts. I can't diverge away from the structure of 5e combat and still call it a 5e game to include it in the martial power system, but I'm very, very much thinking about beyond that. And what can I reverse, and what can I dumb down to be able to include as DM options in the martial powers book. So if we're building a sleek martial combat engine for spellcasting, I want the characters to have resources to do cool stuff, but I don't want to have to bog them down. And make it less efficient. I'm thinking I'm thinking minions, which could be one shot. If minions can be one shot, then you don't need to spend mana on damage. So you need to have a mix between minions and brutes. We know this from 4th edition. I'm thinking about narrative design. The words aren't there yet. I got a lot of curviness going on in this tree. A lot more than in the other trees. Problem is I want to be consistent across all the foliage, and I started working a pattern that I wasn't familiar with. A much more billowy, fluffy, nodal. No, that looks pretty good. Yeah, it feels consistent enough at this point. There we go. Cool. Next. Sometimes I drag my arm around while I do this, and just kind of like wibble with my wrist, and sometimes my elbow gets stuck, and it causes those weird sharp jags that you saw there. See, there's a little jag again. Hey, thank you, Tommy Timer. Oh my god, wow. I'm getting some serious time dilation today. Nope, nope. Did not look good. There we go. That's better. Okay, the simplicity of minions is that they're there and then they're gone. You don't have to think about them. But there's no reason for players to sling mana at them if you do. So it's just action economy. It's an action economy sponge. You just eat them up. But so if it only takes one hit to kill them, as a DM, I don't think I necessarily want to be rolling a bunch of dice all the time for them. So I'm thinking about saving throws. Because I like players rolling dice, and I like and as a DM, I like rolling less dice because I can spend more time focusing. Like the less math I have to do, the more focus I can have on the narrative. And when I offload the math onto the players, they're honestly, I like players taking time in combat. It gives me an opportunity to think about what's going on in this, and let the world start buffering in the background behind this round of combat. Combat, if I feel like if we do combat well, we don't actually have to think that much during it. So it actually buys time for us to load in new encounters beyond this combat. And if this combat takes 3 rounds, that's like maybe 20 minutes of you having little spots of time to plan the next encounter out. I think I like that. So armor class is a passive defense score, kind of like how you have a passive perception check, a passive perception score that, like, if the number is this or lower, you automatically notice it, and I don't have to bother with metagame die rolls. I can just look at what your passive is. Armor class is like a passive combined saving throw, and it's you don't get a proficiency bonus, but instead you get whatever it is that you're wearing. So it has this odd variable proficiency modifier that's a static. It's a static bonus, but it's inconsistent. The proficiency bonus is based on the gear that you have, which is an interesting unused concept. Like, that could technically be what tools are. Like, if you were to use a tool, you would gain a proficiency bonus equal to whatever the quality of that tool is. But the thing is that armored checks don't have a proficiency bonus to it, and it's a passive check. So the tool that would be like when you're actively trying to protect yourself from damage, you would add your proficiency bonus to your armor class. -10 is the modifier to your d20 die roll, and that doesn't feel true. I'm thinking about saving throws. I'm thinking about a variable saving throw, because in the role-playing game that I've been running with my home table, we have it's body and spirit saving throws. So you roll if it's a psychic attack or like a spell power or like a hypnosis effect or something like that. you're making a mental saving throw versus a physical saving throw, which is like a trap goes off or somebody attacks you with a weapon or something like that. It tries to shank you, stuff like that. That's where the physical saves come in. But it's all saving throws. A defense roll is a saving throw. And a defense roll is when you don't have a passive armor class, you have an active armor class. So you're always making armor class checks. So to keep that fair for players that don't have heavily armored characters, you need to have a mix of mental saving throws, physical saving throws, and armor checks. Good. So I'm thinking about minions as like mobs, and instead of having attack rolls, it's just saving throws. And it just deals X damage, and anyone that rolls above the difficulty takes half. And just make it be physical damage. You know, BPS. But I like the idea of like you choosing which saving throw you want, strength, dexterity, or constitution. So you can always use your best saving throw, since we're basically having like melee saves. Similarly, mental attacks using either intelligence, wisdom, or intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throws to resist effects that are coming at you, instead of being so picky about what each one is. That's like specific instances with specific saving throws as like big uh-oh spells, as opposed to just normal combat harassment and like, you know, make your save or take damage. I don't think I need to be so picky about which saving throw you're going to use. I like the idea of you being able to choose and me just being able to pepper you with stuff. So that the players are making die rolls more often. I'm making die rolls less often. I'm cycling through my monsters faster. Probably be paying attention more to the size and space that these things occupy, but I kind of like the who gives a shit about it enough. There. Good. Hey, we're almost done. And look at the starting on the trunks. Oh boy. Square it up a little bit. Zoom in here. There we go. Too sharp. Just twist that in there. So much of 5e is built around a monster attacking your character, like you being able to dodge the attack or deflect the damage or interpose, parry, like all these different defense options that have evolved into the 5e game. They rely on the DM making attack rolls against the characters for them to make use of these reactions and feats. And I'm not mechanically design-wise, it forces the DM to make die rolls and ask, what's your armor class and how's that coming along? You know, that's asking the players to provide numbers for you instead of having to roll dice. And I think that's where my brain starts to disapprove of the default manner in which a 5e game is conducted, because that die roll, I'd rather players rolling dice because it's engaging with them and they can tell me what they got and I can just tell them the results of their die roll. Like, this is what happens because of that. And because they rolled it, they own it a lot more. The way that the game is set up right now, the DM is designed to be adversarial because I'm making die rolls against you. And unless I'm rolling in the open, I'm basically telling you if I hit you or not. Right? I'm basically just deciding you're going to get hit now. But if you roll in the open, you potentially pigeonhole what you're doing or giving away your game on what's going on. It's a level of metadata I don't think the players necessarily need to know that this dragon has like a plus 14 to hit. That's just a level of metadata that's unnecessary for players to conduct the game. And that's where my brain breaks, is that the game assumes that the DM is going to be making die rolls against the players, and I'd rather just not. So then we have to differentiate between being targeted by an effect versus being caught inside of an area of effect, because those have different inference about action reactions that you can take. Hey, we did it. We finished. Nice. Canopy, and now we're going to do trunks. So we're going to do this for a few hours. Let's just be real. I will be doing this for a number of hours. This will probably consume the rest of my week, making these. If I'm going to be showing up in 1 hour chunks in the morning, I will absolutely be doing this till Friday. I hadn't had the rules of branch ratios quite figured out when I scruffed this in. My education about branches has increased yet again with the Tree of Woe that we produced. Nope, I have a flaw somewhere. Oh, here it is. Open bar, open hole. There. So how do I fix that? How can I work around the assumption that DMs are going to roll dice and still stay true to the 5e game engine that Wizards produced? Obviously, the variant rule is that players roll a dice, and they have that in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and that's wonderful, but that is not the default setting for the table. So what do I, as a DM, do to meet expectations of... Because it's a playtest. I don't want to just toss on variant rules about how you get to play the game. That doesn't validate the playtest. Because saving throws is an in-game mechanic that's readily recognized by D&D that I can lean into as a player to as a DM to minimize the amount of dice I need to roll. But it starts to get sketchy when we have a guy with a battle axe coming at you and I make you make a saving throw. I do like the idea of make any saving throw that you want against this attack. That sounds fun. sure the tree stays balanced. I think this is a better method of doing this. Huh, yeah. This is a better method of doing this. I don't know if this is something I'm discovering or if a memory is just clicking into place finally is making sense. Nice. You gotta pay attention to the how thick this branch is going to be as it moves further and further away from the trunk. It can't have nearly as much weight. It'll just break. It'll break the branch. So it has to thin down severely as we get further out here. But I like that we snaked all these lines out here so we knew where our proportions were going to be at. I think that's really good. Drop down to 4. Start thinning down those lines out here on the edges. I don't need that bow. This is good. These are all good. And like all the little minuscule branches that feather out, I'm not bothering with those micro details. I'm letting just the branches get near the end, and that's sufficient. So I added this mass, so this whole trunk needs to thicken now. This needs to thin a touch. There we go, that looks nice. Thin this one up. I need some copies, what I need. It's just a black outline. You can just print that as a tree. There you go. It's a tree. Burn it up. But we'll colorize it for the virtual tabletop so that it's pretty with color. I hear seagulls. I love it when seagulls hang out in my neighborhood. Where are we at? 7:43. I've got about 10 minutes left this morning. So let's keep digging into this. I'm going to be back at lunchtime today. We're going to work on the Martial Powers playtest adventure. Building that stuff out. This is why I'm thinking about that stuff this morning, about like action economy and character interaction and stuff, because that is something that I am struggling with the new role-playing system that I've been playing with my weekly table. It's so fast and loose, and it's just basically ability checks all the time. So it's super fast, and I'm not nearly as much of a fan of the thick, clunky action economy of shifting gears into the combat mode of playing D&D. Keep at it, Kearney. You're doing good, buddy. Real good. That feels better. Fountain pen would be really nice here to be able to do some sharp tapered edges. This carving away at the thick lines is just, it's It's dragging down the process. Not a fan. So I guess the next time I do this, I used 8 pixels as a branch line, but I'm finding myself operating in the 3-line space, so, which makes sense because that's consistent with the language I've been using, so I'm glad. But it's causing me to do a lot of erasing right now. I'm not sure if this is necessarily the most efficient way to do it. I should be doing it like this instead. It's a lot easier to taper than 8 pixels. Like that. Much easier to taper off. Again, I gotta be careful about the weight. A spot like this would be like another branch would be rising up into this space here and then spread out at a different tier level. But I'm not concerning myself with all the striation and patterns and stuff. These are just the most significant, the most significant lowest hanging branches, as it were. But I like these pockets being inside of here where like other branches would naturally be growing at different elevations along the trunk. Geez, these all need a lot of work. I'm always careful not to have one line like go stretch like straight for too long. There's a bend, kind of like thighs and then reverse reverse knees on like the back legs of dogs. I forget what those things are called. But there's this load-bearing effect of having a back-kicked knee that helps bear weight and fold energy. In animals, it allows for explosive movement and fast running because you have two gears that are working together to piston off of a space, which is different than how the human legs are built. But when it comes to load bearing, it also absorbs load a lot easier because it has the two joints to balance it on. Which is why you get like these kickback things, like these curves going on inside these branches, because they're very, they bear loads very well. There's a lot of shockwave support, like a lot of shock absorption, and having back bent knees like that. Hey, Real, how you doing? Good to see you, my guy. I'm going to be stepping out of here in just a few minutes. But we'll be back on. We're going to be back on at lunchtime, probably around 1:30 in Seattle. It's almost 8 o'clock here, so in about 4.5 hours, 1:30, that'll be 5.5 hours. I'll be back on for probably an hour to work on the adventure, the Hex. And it looks like we have 4 players. I'm waiting for them to integrate into the Discord channel and distribute information, but it looks like we have a team. So Monday the 29th looks pretty good to go. Hey, what's up? Did you dirty? Why it didn't give you notification that I was out there? YouTube doesn't like me a lot. YouTube doesn't understand why I'm here. Like, what am I trying to do? I'm obviously not trying to make money. Why are you wasting our time with whatever it is that you're doing? I'm like, dude, just let me do. If I keep doing what I'm from Missouri, and in Missouri we have a saying, and it says, if you don't like the weather, wait a minute, because it's gonna change. And there's my timer for ending my day. And I have that same philosophy about YouTube. YouTube doesn't like what I am right now, but I bet in 3 years what I'm doing here is something that YouTube is going to be interested in promoting. So I'm just going to keep doing what feels right to me, knowing that the winds of change will eventually blow people in my direction, and whoever's going to get stuck in my burrs, they are welcome to stay. There's that. But yeah, I got to bounce out of here and get my day going. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, you know? We're gonna end that there. I like this. I like this a lot. We'll finish this one tomorrow and get another one going. And there's a lot of this shit, so it's gonna take a little while for us to finish it. But we're getting more and more efficient at building tree stuff as we go. So these are endeavors worth taking. And again, once we have these completed, a number of these act as tokens. So we'll just be able to blot them onto the board and then fill in unique stuff along the edges to make it more unique. But this is going to turn out nice. So we're going to finish the trees, and then we're going to build hedges and foliage tokens to fill in gaps, to create little obstacles and stuff. And then we're going to build out the tent, the campfire, sleeping bags as tokens, and then we're going to colorize the ground, colorize the trunks and the tree foliage, and the tree foliage will be a separate layer that can lift off of the here. See the you can seal this. You got this tree over here that we're working on, and the foliage is a separate layer, so it acts as like a roof cap that you can lift off the tree, so we can have plumage and foliage on top here, and it'll all be colored in, and then you can just make that layer disappear, and then this is the skeleton of the branches that the characters have to maneuver around inside of. Anyway, tree tech. That's it for now, guys. I'll be back in about 5.5 hours for us to do some Martial Powers adventure design. The ideas are starting to filter into my head, and we'll see what kind of a fever dream we can have for about an hour or so this afternoon. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue on this tree project. Yeah, so see. Thanks for showing up, bro. I'll catch everyone else in the future too. Thanks a lot.